Hello, and welcome to another episode of Roots and Hoots, a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. Since 2020, we have been gathering, laughing, learning hard truths, and sharing in community conversations with Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island. Each episode, we learn something new, and we're excited to be sharing this journey with you. Roots and Hoots is about connecting with and celebrating Indigenous people's contributions to their fields of study, work, and cultures. We also speak with allies who share how they are furthering the work of reconciliation in Canada. To learn more about the Legacy of Hope Foundation and the work that we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Roots and Hoots. This week we are so happy to be joined by Marc Forgette, who is a proud member of the Apitipi Anicinapek Nation, with roots in both Algonquin and French heritage. As the founder of Makatew Workshops, Marc is dedicated to promoting cultural awareness and understanding through immersive experiences. With a passion for sharing his heritage, Marc leads hands-on workshops that offer participants a deep insight into Indigenous traditions and perspectives. Through Makatew Workshops, Marc strives to bridge cultural divides and foster mutual respect and appreciation among diverse communities across the nation's capital. We are so pleased to be joined by Marc in studio today, and we hope you enjoy this special episode of Roots and Hoots.
Hello and welcome to this podcast of Indigenous Roots and Hoots. I'm your guest. I'm your host, Gordon Spence. And today my guest is Marc Forgette. Hello, Marc. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Maybe we can start by you telling us a little bit about your background, where you come from, and your community, your cultural identity.
Absolutely. So I'm born and raised here in Ottawa. My family is from Apitipi Anicinapek, which is in Treaty 9, northeastern Ontario. I am Algonquin and French, and that's me.
Awesome. When you were growing up, I guess you just said that you were growing up in Ottawa. Did you have any connection or any ties? Did you learn anything about your traditional culture and language?
Well, my grandmother was very fluent in her, native tongue, and whenever we gathered at her house, which was every Saturday growing up, and whenever her sisters were there, they always spoke their language, the Anishinaabe language, and I was always intrigued and wowed by this language, this beautiful language I was hearing, but never really picked up on it, never got to learn it, not until later in my life that I decided to take that opportunity to learn a few words and be able to communicate.
Yeah. So it was your grandmother's side that was Algonquin?
Yes.
Okay. And your father was French?
My dad was French.
Yeah. Okay. You are the owner of Makatew?
I'm the owner of Makatew Workshops, yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a bit about your company and what it's all about and your vision?
Absolutely. So Makatew is my fourth great-grandfather's last name, and roughly translates to black in the Anishinaabe language, but in the Cree language it translates to lead.
Yeah.
And so I chose that as my company name because I wanted to bring honor to my family, right, and to take back what was taken from us, right, what is rightfully ours. So I decided to call it Makatew. And what we do with my company is we provide hands-on cultural awareness workshops for groups, for government groups. We do keynote speaking at conferences as well. And it's got a hands-on approach, so therefore people are making something tangible. So it's important for me that they focus on what we're sharing during our workshops. We give them something to do with their hands so they can keep their hands off their phones for a little while.
Right.
Yeah.
Things like what do they do? Like you're when you say workshop, what do you mean by workshop?
So one of the big things, our most popular workshop is our medicine bag workshop. So they get to create and sew together a small medicine bag. While they're doing that, and everything has been created that all the stitch holes are already made, so this is not a difficult task. If they can listen to the instructions for 2 minutes, they get it right each and every time. And during that time, we take the time to share on the medicine wheel teachings, what those mean to us. We talk about cultural appropriation, but we also share on cultural appreciation. What is cultural appreciation? We want to make sure we take the fear out of anybody who's hesitant to learn about our culture. We talk about the terminology because that's changed a lot over the years. So we talk about the history of the terminology and what they can and cannot say. We touch on residential schools because that's important. It's relevant every day of the year. We talk about the Indian status card myths and the Indian Act. And last but not least, we always touch on the 94 calls to action.
When you do these workshops, how large are the groups and how do you promote your business? How do you promote this? Who's your target audience?
So our group sizes will vary. They'll go from anywhere between 15 people as big as 1,500 people at one time that we did host. And we've only promoted ourselves. A lot of it is word of mouth through our websites. Our key clientele are, like I said, corporates, government. We do grade schools, high schools, colleges, universities. We don't do just like pop-ins, like where you can just drop into our, into our space, and we just start a workshop. So again, these are all, designed that we'll come into the space. Our space at Makatew Workshops is only will accommodate about 25 people. So usually we go on site wherever the client is at. So whether that's an office, a hotel, or a conference center.
Mm-hmm. Can you share a Makatew project or event that is particularly that was meaningful to you?
Yeah. So I started Makatew back in 2019, in June of 2019. And I said, if this becomes successful, and I knew it was going to, I want to give back, and not just to our Indigenous peoples, or our community, but the community at large, wherever I'm set up with my business. Yeah. So just over 2 years ago, I moved into our space in the Carp. So I moved out of the house into a bigger space. And I said that I would, host a truth and reconciliation ceremony for the community to come and learn and come listen to survivors. And so I remember setting that up and not knowing how many people were going to show up. This was happening on a Saturday. And we rented a tent and AV. We hired an MC, a knowledge keeper who was going to be our MC. The AV, we had entertainment, our dancers and stuff. And I still remember at 5 to 10, my wife comes to me. She goes, "I don't think anybody's going to show up." I'm like, "Well, of course, it's only 5 to 10. It was still 5 minutes." And I was just hoping that somebody was going to fill those seats. Yeah. At 10 o'clock, it was like Field of Dreams. Over 100 people just started coming out from all over the place and filling in those seats. It was incredible to see. And so this year we hosted once again, and we had over 400 people at the ceremony. So, and this year we also invited out Legacy of Hope Foundation to come and be our charity of choice, and to share what did they do with our community, because I think it's important to get the word out. And that is probably what I've been most proud of. And I continue to grow this. And hopefully next year we're gunning for 1,000 people. Yeah. Right. So.
And now a word from our sponsor. Ayaya songs are about our histories. Ayaya is an Inuit-owned firm that tells our stories in many languages across Canada. They are experts in publishing children's books, usually in syllabics, and they do large multi-language projects like the reports of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Commission. If you need help getting your stories into classrooms or homes in Cree, Inuktitut, or other Indigenous languages, check them out at ayaya.ca. That's ayaya.ca. Ayaya is a proud sponsor of the Roots and Hoots podcast.
Well, I think it's a great idea, and it's an excellent way to reach out to non-Indigenous Canadians in telling the truth and reconciliation. The question is now is how does the work that you do at Makatew Workshop tie into truth and reconciliation?
Well, to me, truth and reconciliation, when we break down the word reconciliation, it means to reconcile or to balance. Therefore, it's not just non-Indigenous people that need to come to the table to work out the issues. It's also Indigenous people that need to also come to the table and to balance things out. So to me, it's important for Makatew to play our role in reconciliation. So whether that is the sharing of our knowledge, the sharing of residential schools, the sharing of our, whether that's cultural appreciation, because again, that's a call to action. Call to action number 92, support Indigenous businesses.
Yeah.
That's what reconciliation looks like.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of this stuff going on right now across the country. Reclamation is what I call it, of our languages and our cultures, and it's great to see people going back and learning about their language and learning back about their cultures, and young people, going out on the land with elders and relearning about, their histories and how traditional, foods and medicines, were an important part of their lives. You are on the Ottawa Tourism Board of Directors. Can you share more about your role and why promoting Indigenous tourism in the nation's capital is important?
Well, tourism has been I've been involved in tourism for the better part of 15, close to 20 years now, and Indigenous tourism is growing fast here in Canada, and I know the Conference Board of Canada did a survey back in 2018, and Indigenous tourism was outpacing regular tourism, and for every 3 international travelers to Canada, 1 in 3 were looking for an Indigenous experience of some type. That was their sole purpose for their trip to Canada. So it's growing fast. And my role on the board is not only to represent those companies, those tourism, Indigenous tourism companies, but it's to help. How do we engage with them? How do we connect the travelers with these tourism companies, and how do they experience these companies? So I chair the membership committee, as well as I sit on the Indigenous tourism advisory committee as well.
Yeah, Ottawa is very well suited for this type of business that you're in, promoting and educating the public about Indigenous people. Before, and I know, and I can understand how and why Indigenous tourism is growing so fast. And before, like 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, people were afraid, to go to powwows, and stayed away, and because they didn't know, they were, many times they weren't welcome. But now it's kind of open to the public now, and you see thousands and thousands of people flock to powwows, and it's just incredible thing to see. The other thing I wanted to mention was we had a guest on the podcast a while back, and he was talking about the trip he made to Europe, and the people he spoke to were very interested in Indigenous people and the cultures and the way of life and how we were doing in Canada. And because he says, you go to a place like London, England, you can see all kinds of ethnic people there, but you never see any Indian from First Nations people. And so they had a totally different, attitude and way of thinking about Indigenous people, which is, really good to hear, and he really enjoyed the trip, and he got a lot out of it and made a lot of friends. And so he was happy to share that with us. What do you wish people had a better understanding of about your community and your nation?
Well, because Apitipi is really a small nation, it's a remote nation. It's not easily accessible, but our community is open to everyone. It's everyone, whoever wants to drive into our community, they're welcome to join, to go in and drive through, and it's not closed off to anybody. You don't have to be Indigenous or from the community. So there's the misconception that because we're remote, we're not educated, but we are educated. We're still very traditional in the community, but we work a lot with the local companies that are mining or doing forestry. So there's still a lot of work that's getting done. So our community is open to everyone to attend. We have our traditional powwow every August. That's open to anybody to come in, and it's just that we're so remote that it's not an urban reserve, right? So it takes a little to get there.
But I think a lot of people are just discovering that it's okay to drive to a reserve and meet people and talk to people and look around, and it's not a closed territory. There's no borders, but in some cases now there are checkpoints. When you go into a community, there is a checkpoint. Some communities are dry, meaning alcohol is not allowed, so they'll check your vehicle for alcohol. But other than that, it's people are welcome to as you said, go into the communities, reserves.
Yeah, and you touched on powwows, and I still get those answers whenever I ask that question in my workshops. Who in this room have been to a powwow? And it's surprising that only about a quarter of the hands go up. And when I ask somebody, well, hey, you didn't put your hand up, what is your reason?
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10, it's I didn't know it was allowed.
Right.
I didn't know if I was allowed to go to a powwow.
Yeah.
And it's rightfully so. I mean, they're not advertised.
Right.
And so, I said, absolutely. I said, most of the time when you go to a powwow, you'll see people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful celebration that you should go to a powwow, and it's easy to find, and there's one in every community.
Yeah. It's good. It's so good to see the growth of, people attending powwows these days. And it's so good as an Aboriginal person when you see the faces and the expressions, that people make when the grand entry starts,
Yep.
And they're just in awe and inspired, and just incredible feeling and pride for us, as Indigenous people.
Absolutely.
We feel proud, when we see that. So
I've seen smiles, I've seen tears, I've seen different emotions, and that's what that brings, and that goes to show you that we have something beautiful. We've always had this beautiful spirit about us, and I think those who are attending their first powwows where they feel that emotion and perhaps there's some tears, and that's just being human, that they know what happened to our people over the years and why. And so I think once they've experienced their first powwow, it's definitely not their last.
And now a word from our sponsor. Ayaya songs are about our histories. Ayaya is an Inuit-owned firm that tells our stories in many languages across Canada. They are experts in publishing children's books, usually in syllabics, and they do large multi-language projects like the reports of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Commission. If you need help getting your stories into classrooms or homes in Cree, Inuktitut, or other Indigenous languages, check them out at ayaya.ca. That's AYAYA.ca. Ayaya is a proud sponsor of the Roots and Hoots podcast.
what is the your community? It's an Algonquin community in northern Ontario.
Yes.
What treaty would have fallen under?
So that is Treaty 9.
Treaty 9.
Yeah, Treaty 9 was signed back in 1905 and 1906.
1905, 1906. So they were making their way west because our treaty was signed in 1908. Were you part of the Plows and Cows treaty?
No, I was not. And I know that because...
You're familiar with that, right?
I am not familiar with that. So that's why I was not part of it. Maybe you can explain a little more about that.
Well, I'll just let you know that in some of the treaties that were signed, like out west in particular, Treaty 8, I think it was, in the treaty it said every family will get a plow and a cow every year.
Mm.
And since 1908, we have not seen one plow nor one cow come to our community. So there's this whole thing that's going. It's about to happen. It's happening now, where they're going back and having another look at these treaties and saying, well, the courts are now looking at them and saying, look, the government, you guys didn't live up to your obligations here. And there's a treaty, it's an agreement.
Right.
So you have to, you have to come up with some money here to pay for back what you owe these people.
So instead of a plow now, you want a pickup truck, right?
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. It's just in the process. I was just talking to our chief the other day, and she says it's being discussed. It's being worked on by the councillors. So we'll see where that takes us. Why is the process of truth and reconciliation important for all Canadians to be a part of? And what is your hope for the future generations?
Well, again, I mean, we know that we lost Murray Sinclair a couple weeks ago, and he laid out the roadmap for us on what it will take in order to rebalance our nation so that we can work together, we can share this land together. And so I think it's up to us now as Canadians, and each and every Canadian, to read the 94 calls to actions. They're not that long. There's only 94 of them.
How does one access these 94 calls?
Well, the nice thing is I have the full report, and it is quite a hefty amount of books. But the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has these little orange little booklets. Mm-hmm. These are little pocket books that are available. I think they're about $7. You can go to Truth and Reconciliation Commission and order your little orange book, and it's simply the 94 calls to action. And they're short. You probably read this in about 20 minutes. And it's important because I think we all have a call to action. As an individual, as a corporation, as a government, as a public servant, we all have a call to action. And if we all just pick one, and if we took call to action number 80, for example, which is Truth and Reconciliation, if we all decided to show up on September 30th to a ceremony, that is a call to action. Mm-hmm. You've just completed your call to action. You've gone to a ceremony to listen to the survivors, to stand, shoulder to shoulder and show them that, we care about them. We are here with them. It's not complicated. Grab another call to action. If you're a public servant, that's call to action number 57. Mm-hmm. Know what that means to you. Bring it to your colleagues, bring it to your supervisor, going, hey, this is our call to action. What are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah. It's not complicated. Right. But I think the first step is reading all 94 calls to action.
I think I think it's called the Center for Truth and Reconciliation.
In Winnipeg?
In Winnipeg, right?
Yes.
So if you Google that, you should be able to access their website.
Yep.
You're doing wonderful work in promoting Indigenous people, Indigenous cultures, and and letting Canadian people know what a bit about the Indigenous people, and through your workshops, Makatew. Do you have like a website that people can access and go to your site?
I do. So it's www.makatew.ca, and Makatew is spelled MAKATEW.ca. And so there they can also reach out to us, even if you just have a question. If you're not sure of the terminology or the protocol, we're always a phone call away, an email away. We'll never judge you. We'll never make you feel any shame, because we're there to we want you to learn. We want you to be comfortable. And so I've had questions where, hey, can I call you Indian? Mm-hmm. Well, technically by law, yes, I'm perhaps a legal status Indian, but the preferred terminology would be Indigenous, or First Nation. Yeah. So I use that as a teaching moment. Mm-hmm. I never want to make them feel embarrassed, because therefore we're just gonna shut down and say, well, that's it. I'm never going to ask another question because that was embarrassing. Yeah. So it's a teaching moment. We want them to learn, We want them to be comfortable, whether going to a powwow or speaking with an Indigenous person, whether that's a coworker, perhaps, find out where they're from. Just ask questions.
Right.
They're not going to bite. What community you're from. That's the way you're going to engage with a person, an Indigenous person, and they're just human, just like us, like everybody else, right? So.
Well, thank you for taking the time, Marc. I'm talking to Marc Forgette, an Algonquin Nation member from Northern Ontario, doing excellent work in, promoting Indigenous people cultures in Canada and bringing back some reconciliation, truth and reconciliation. Thank you very much for doing this part.
Miigwech, Gordon.
Thank you.
Miigwech.
Roots and Hoots is a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. For episode show notes, please visit the podcast description and make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. For more information about the work we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca.